as I mentioned, you've worked for, a number of very well-known companies. Um, starting out early on, with an internship at IBM, right? When you were still in
Yes.
Turkey. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I'm curious because this is, of course, your first time as a founder and CEO. I want to spend a little time and talk about, the things that you learned at working for a Microsoft or a Netflix, right? Netflix has a fairly well-known culture, right? I mean, they pay a lot and they expect you to work 1,000,000 hours a week, basically. And PayPal. And I'm curious as to what you've learned working for those other types of companies, what you've learned that you've brought with you, and what you've learned that you said, this is not in any way, shape, or form the way I want to build my own business. If you're
No, it's
willing
a
to
great
talk
question.
about
Actually,
it,
like,
and you don't have to say what it was, which company it was that you learned these negative things from, but, we can probably fill in the blanks on those.
well, let me be honest because
Yeah.
that's a very direct question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, every company has its good, great parts and parts that they, could have improved. But sometimes when it comes to like this long lasting companies, it became maybe sometimes
That's
chronic
exactly correct.
issues in
That's
that
why I
company,
asked. Yep.
um, and they can't even like fix it.
Yeah.
But working in different companies is actually like traveling different cities, different
Mhm.
countries. You see like good parts of it and like not
Right.
so good parts of it, and then you end up like having perspective about the world, right? That's I built that perspective about professional
Mhm.
life by working in those things. So certain things that were like really great about versus IBM and Microsoft was like the relationships they built with the companies. They were like
Right.
there to build very long lasting relationships, and they were spending a lot on R&D, and they were creating an environment for their employees where they can just literally work like decades without any major problems in terms of like benefits and HR and so
Mhm.
forth. That is like how they were looking at things. Newer tech companies, for example, Uber, back in the time I joined in 2014, was fresh, very fresh. It was a single floor company, uh, and the motivation was like to make it bigger and faster, like go fast, go big.
Mhm.
The excitement, the adrenaline was like super high, and I loved it. I thrilled on it because it was basically a magnet for every high performer around in the valley at that time.
Mhm.
And the carrot was also very big. The company's valuation was
That's
going
right.
4x every year, and it was basically creating a new world, a new way of like doing things. So that's I think
Mhm.
very important. But it has own problems. Obviously, going really fast.
Mhm.
It also attracts like different type of talent, and they were not necessarily careful about like how they are treating
And anybody who's
everybody.
read the news or watched the documentary knows the problems, the cultural
There
issues that
were
Travis Kalanick built, right? Um,
I cannot personally necessarily blame on it, but at the end of the day, if you're the
you're the
CEO,
CEO, the buck
you get
stops
to
there. I'm sorry,
exactly.
and that's where the blame belongs, in my opinion, right? But we're not here to
This
talk
is
about him.
unfortunately
We're
like
we're here to
that.
talk about what you've learned and then brought forward to your own organization. So let's
Right.
fast forward now. You're almost 3 years into this new gig.
Okay.
What are some of the mistakes you have made as a CEO along the way?
Well, if I were to start this over again, I wouldn't hesitate scaling certain parts up that slowly. Like I would have hired more people, and I would be like more open to fundraising in the beginning. Like now I'm thinking like myself is on the conservative side of like
Hmm.
fundraising. I see like competitors are raising a lot more money. Obviously, this gives them some sort of
Hmm.
advantage. So thinking about like that I could bootstrap it for a
Hmm.
while was maybe noble, but was it really
Yeah,
necessary? That's a
that's
question.
fantastic.
Um, the other thing is like I think we could have like work with recruitment agencies
Mhm.
more. They spend a lot of time on recruiting, and that that could be like a game changer. Now we are changing this, obviously. It's something like we're working on. The third thing is like I think we could exhibit more in conferences, knowing like they're actually working for us very well.
Wait, I didn't catch the last thing you said.
We could exhibit more in more
Oh, attend more
conferences. We
conferences.
could go
Yep,
out
yep,
in
yep.
public instead of like trying on Zoom for meetings.
Mhm.
It really makes a difference when you shake somebody's hand and say like
Yeah,
hi.
I mean, you will not get an argument out of me. Everybody, there's been so much written about, oh, we're going 100% remote, or we want to bring everybody back into the office. And, the reality is there is no one solution for everyone. You have to do what's best for your organization, and what's most effective. And frankly, it's got to be what your people need, right? If your
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
feel the need that they're not getting what they need by being home 5 days a week, well, maybe they come in 2 days a week, right? Or whatever that might look like. It's just not a one size fits all solution for every company. And
I mean, there's a big cultural revolution happening. Maybe it's not 68, but
right.
it's like almost there. There's a very different understanding of like what work is,
Mhm.
what employment
Mhm.
is. Um, Workplace, that word disappeared almost from the
Yeah.
dictionary. So we have to adjust for this new world. We cannot.
Mhm.
I don't want to fight against like the world, and I don't want to like. I want people to feel
That's right.
happy, motivated,
That's
and
right.
one thing like everyone in our team says like I'm learning something. That makes me very
That's
very
right.
happy. Um, and I'm learning myself the
Mhm.
most, I think, out of this equation.
That's
And
fantastic.
that's what makes me wake up at 8 a.m. or till midnight, no worries about it. So I feel great about it.
Yeah.
And that is the motivation that people want and need.
Mhm, mhm. So, your first job here in the States was with Microsoft, correct?
Hmm.
How did you get here?
Right. Well, so at that time I was, it was 2006. So I finished my bachelor's and master's.
Mhm.
I was working in this, top research lab in
Mhm.
Turkey, and I was pretty good at what I was doing, to be honest. I was, in academic paper referee in IEEE, so it was pretty good in my like job. Because mostly because like I actually worked throughout my college life. I built like
Yeah.
websites and so forth. To get some extra
Mhm.
cash. So that added like some experience. So when I finished college, I was already a somewhat decent programmer. So that put me like a little bit behind the
Mhm.
curve. And I heard about that Microsoft is coming to town to hire people, and I applied for it. And then it turned out to be the interview went really great, and I become the first developer they hired from Turkey.
And were you working in
They were
Turkey
hiring.
originally, Ozan? Okay.
No, it was straight up to
Right.
Seattle,
Okay.
Microsoft
Yep.
HQ. So they were hiring testers before now the developer, and I heard after me they are hiring developers, which I'm
Got
really,
it.
you know, low key proud about it. Uh, and I went to Microsoft, Seattle, new life, and those things are obviously easier decisions when you're
Yeah.
25. Um, I thought about the offer. I was like, what if I say no? Well, I'm not gonna get anything. What if I say yes? Well, I guess I
Yeah.
always can come back, right?
Well, and it
But it's been 16 years that I did not come back.
yeah.
I, settled here,
Mhm.
became a citizen, and super happy to be
That's
here.
great.
I'm super grateful to Microsoft for the
Yeah,
opportunity. It was a very smooth
I'm
landing.
sure. What did you find, to be the biggest challenge for you moving from another country?
Well, the biggest challenge was the one that I least thought about. It was the time zone difference. It was like, so I'm in New York
Yeah.
now. It's just a little bit better. With in Seattle, the time zone in Turkey was like 10
Oh,
hours.
yeah.
So it's basically day and night.
Mhm.
Like when you're talking to people, they're in a completely different
Right.
mindset. Like, yeah, you're in the morning,
Right.
you're fresh. They're like late in the evening, having a party,
Mhm.
drinking, or vice versa. Like, it was like a little disconnect there.
Mhm.
You can't just like get off and
Right.
go. Um, and losing like your small conveniences is like a little thing to adjust. But personality-wise, I love exploring new things. So it was, making up
Mhm.
for
Got
it.
it. So you have 15 employees now. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your talent strategy and where you've seen your biggest challenges.
Which strategy,
Your
sir?
talent strategy
Talent
and where you've
strategy.
seen your biggest challenges.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think the what we are looking for is like, the the kind of people like who want to come and change the
Mm,
world, who want to do the best of their careers, who want to live the best of their lives, and hopefully make the best money they're gonna make too as well. So we are here for
mhm.
explorers, innovators, who people like who already want to walk the next
Yeah.
mile, and so by themselves without us asking that. That is
Mhm.
the right type
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
people for any startup, especially here in this one where we are, we're there's a we are fighting the giants here in a one way. Like, there are really large companies that we compete against, and we are like ahead in our technological
Mhm.
niche. Microsoft and this Netflix,
Mhm.
UiPath, all those like big companies, they are proposing their
Right.
solutions, and well, at the end of the day, like side by side comparison, we win in that. So we want people who are excited about that
Mhm.
level of challenge. As a different kind of personality and mentality, I think that it's attracting more overperformance or overachievers, or people who want to be there,
Mhm.
want to see themselves like that. Um, when it comes to like finding those talent,
Mhm.
the biggest challenge is like obviously we want some experience, right?
Mhm.
We want people like to have certain experience about their job, but typical corporate lifestyle, which where there are people getting a lot of experience, it actually tarnishes their motivations
Mhm.
about like a beautiful company and innovative company that they can work
Mhm.
about, because all those things like people experience in those companies, how slow things are,
Mhm.
how political the environment are, where like when all the decisions are already made for
Yeah.
you top down, and like you just have to like in order like to do it regardless of your job title. This is like a motivation killer.
Mhm.
People basically, I'm pretty sure everybody finishes college with a lot of like emotions, but they lose them. They face with the
Mhm.
reality in codes, right? um so that is like the biggest challenge. So we see like that person will be great, but then like will this person actually work in a startup
That's
environment? Will
right.
this person actually like enjoy the
Mhm.
challenges while also embracing the shortcomings of
Right.
a startup?
Carol Schultz here. Thanks for watching this excerpt from Authentically Successful. The conversation doesn't end there. So if you want to hear this episode in full and all my conversations with many other successful founders and CEOs, please visit verticalelevation.com/podcast.